you're reading an assignment created by one of your peers, the first step is to read through it once, looking at the mechanics such as grammar, punctuation, capitalization, and those sorts of things, and then
I can learn to do it, you can learn to do it, pull yourself together, and you'll pull through it. Tell yourself it's easy, and it's true, you can learn to do it too.
You can learn to do it, I can learn to do it.
Don't know how you knew it,
I simply knew it, suddenly I feel like someone new.
Anya, you're a dream come true. If I can learn to do it, you can learn to do it, pull yourself together, and you'll pull through it. Tell yourself it's easy, and it's true, you can learn to do it.
Nothing to it.
You can learn to do it too.
And the second time you read through it, you focus on the content, such as, is what they're saying fact or opinion? Are they citing any sources that they use to find the facts?
If I can learn to do it, you can learn to do it.
Something in your nose it.
There's nothing to it. Follow in my footsteps, shoe by shoe. You can learn to do it too. If I can learn to do it, you can learn to do it. Pull yourself together, and you'll pull through it. Tell yourself it's easy, and it's true. You can learn to do it too.
You can learn to do it, I can learn to do it.
Don't know how you knew it,
I simply knew it, suddenly I feel like someone new.
Anya, you're a dream come true. If
Now, when giving your peers constructive criticism, be sure to explain why you feel the way you feel. If there's a sentence that doesn't make sense to you, explain why it doesn't make sense. And then when accepting constructive criticism, you have to listen to your peer fully and listen to their reasonings and their opinions. And it's important to remember that your peers' comments are suggestions. They're not telling you that you're stupid or that your paper is completely wrong. It's suggestions on how to get a better grade.
What kind of person you think is, you can't even read, the spaces here, it's ridiculous. And then you go over here and you start talking about people and your neighbors like they're things. What are you thinking?
I think maybe I should get a new person to critique my paper. So I got this new card.
Right, this paper just sucks. This sentence here, I don't understand it at all. It makes absolutely no sense.
Well, you have to read the rest of the paragraph to understand.
Well, each sentence should be clear on its own. You shouldn't have to read the whole thing to understand a sentence out of it.
Whatever.
This sentence here makes absolutely no sense.
You have to read the rest of the paragraph.
Well, I shouldn't have to. A sentence should make sense on its own.
No, it doesn't matter.
Overall, I think you did a really good job on the paper. You just have a few typographical errors. Are you paying attention?
Uh-huh.
You just have a few typographical errors, some spacing issues, some commas. But you do have a sentence in here that I think needs a little more sensitivity. Excuse me.
What? I'm listening.
There's just needs a little more sensitivity. I think, although most people would understand what you're trying to say here, it is written in such a way that there are people maybe that wouldn't feel good about the way it's written, and you know, so perhaps you maybe need to change up a little bit of your word choice. Are you listening?
I'm listening. I'm listening.
You did really, really well. It flows really well. It makes a lot of sense. It seems like it's a very poignant point in your life, a very turning point. And I know this was probably really difficult for you to talk about. Some of the first things I noticed is just simple typing things that I'm sure you just probably overlooked. Typing really fast. Like make sure there's always 2 spaces between the punctuation and the next sentence. That makes things a little more clear for the reader. It doesn't seem to kind of bunch together that way. Make sure you always put your commas before the quotation marks. I said, I'm sure these are just simple typographical errors, but things you need to go ahead and correct. I said, I really like the way you kind of flow through and tell how things are, but here I think you may be bridging the gap into some areas that may be some sensitivity to certain readers. So even though this is fine overall, you might want to just rethink how you word these couple of sentences here to make sure that people that may be a little sensitive to this issue won't take it the wrong way in a way that you didn't mean it.
Okay. When I rewrite it, would you mind going over it again with me?
I'd be happy to.
Thanks.
Like I said, overall it's really well, but like this paragraph here, however, I think you need to make it's basically 2 very, very long sentences. I think you need to break it up a little bit, get rid of some of these commas and make them periods and divide it out into separate sentences.
So like after dad, put a period and then start a new one?
Right, because right here you've got, short after accident, I went to California to visit my dad. We did all kinds of fun things, going to parks and beaches a couple days before my sister and I were supposed to go home. I mean, that's a really long sentence. I think you can break that up a little bit, and it'll help with clarity and not make people so tired by trying to read it, But I think it's, what it says is really good, and it's very important for the paper. It's just you need too long, and so just kind of shorten them up. Leave everything there, just make it into a couple of sentences to help with clarity and grammar.
Okay.
If I can learn to do it, you can learn to do it.
Something in your nose it.
There's nothing to it. Follow in my footsteps, shoe by shoe. You can learn to do it too. Now, I can learn to do it. You can learn to do it. Pull yourself together, and you'll pull through it. Tell yourself it's easy, and it's true. You can learn to do it too.
You can learn to do it. I can learn to do it.
Don't know how you knew it.
I simply knew